Hello, it's me, Mary, and my dog Jenny. Hello. This is one of my favorite books of all time, and one of my favorite author illustrators. And I have two books of hers. This is Dogger by Shirley Hughes. Dogger by Shirley Hughes. There's Dogger. He is a dog, right? There's Dogger. I'll turn the light on. That looks better. There. Once there was a soft brown dog called Dogger. One of his ears pointed upward and the other flopped over. His fur was worn in places because he was quite old. He belonged to Dave. Dave was very fond of Dogger. He took him everywhere. Sometimes he gave him rides in a wagon. There's the wagon. And sometimes he pulled him along on a leash like a real dog. And when it was cold, he wrapped Dogger up in a bit of blanket. Now and again, Dave's mom said that Dogger was getting much too dirty, and she showed Dave how to wash him in a bowl of soapy water. And then they hung him up by his tail on the clothesline to dry. There's his sister and his baby brother. Dave's baby brother, Joe, liked hard toys. He liked putting them in his mouth and biting on them because he was getting teeth. Dave's big sister, Bella, took 7 teddies to bed with her every night. She had to sleep right against the wall to stop herself from falling out. But Dave liked only Dogger. See what good pictures they are? See, there's Mom and Joe. Want Dave. Where's Dave? Oh, there's Dave. See, he's showing Dogger through the fence at the playground. One afternoon, Dave and Mom set out to collect Bella from school. Mom took Joe in the stroller, and Dave took Dogger. Next to the school gate, where the moms waited, was the playground. Some men with ladders were putting up colored flags. Mom said that there was going to be a summer fair to get money to buy things for the school. Dave pushed Dogger up against the railings to show him what was going on. They're waiting outside for school to be over. And there's Bella. Just then, the children started to come out of the school. An ice cream van came around the corner playing a tune. Bella ran up with her satchel flying. Her satchel is her book bag. Mom, can we have an ice cream? Mom gave her money for 2 cones. Joe didn't have a whole cone to himself because he was too dribbly. There's Joe. On the way home, Dave walked beside the stroller, giving Joe licks off his ice cream. Joe kicked his feet about and shouted for more in between licks. They're walking home from school. At supper, Dave was very quiet. In the bath, he was even quieter. At bedtime, he said, "I want Dogger." But Dogger was nowhere to be found. Mom looked under the bed. She looked behind the cupboard And she looked under the sink and underneath the stairs. Dave watched anxiously through the banisters, and Joe watched through the bars of his crib. Mom is looking everywhere for Dogger. Bella joined in to look for Dogger. She turned out her own toy box in case he was in there, but he wasn't. When Dad came home, he looked for Dogger too. There's Dad. There's a flashlight. He searched in the shed and down the garden path with a flashlight. But Dogger was quite lost. Dave was very sad when he went to bed. There's Dave. Bella kindly lent him one of her teddies to sleep with, but it was not the same as Dogger. Dave kept waking up in the night and missing him. Oh, this has lots of things. The next day was Saturday, and they all went to the school summer fair. There they are, coming in. The playground was full of stands and sideshows. Let's see, people are dressed up. They're selling food and clothes and things where you can throw things and get a prize. All the people are there. There, sorry, sitting up so you can see the pictures better. There was a fancy dress parade. Do you see how they're all dressed up? There's the duck. Then there were games with an egg and spoon race, which is very fun. You're running along with your egg. Uh-oh, he dropped his egg. There was a wheelbarrow race. It's very hard to walk like this, like a wheelbarrow. 2 people have to work together. And there was even a dad's race. Look at the dads. I like this dad's race. Yay, go dads. Right. Bella was very good at races. She won the 3-legged race. Can you see how you have a 3-legged race? 2 of you tie your leg together. 1 leg together in the middle. With her friend Barbara. Wouldn't you like to go in for a race? They asked Dave. There they have a blue ribbon because they won the 3-legged race. But Dave did not feel like racing. He was missing Dogger too much. Right. Then another very exciting thing happened to Bella. She won first prize in a raffle. It was a huge yellow teddy bear wearing a beautiful blue silk bow. He was almost as big as Dave. Dave did not like that teddy at all. At that moment, he didn't like Bella much either because she kept on winning things. He went off on his own to look at the stands. There he is, going off on his own. One lady had a toy stand full of knitted ducks and cars and baby dolls and bonnets. And there, at the very back, behind a lot of other toys, was Dogger. Do you see him? He says 50 cents. 50 cents. There were a lot of people around the stand, and Dave tried to explain to the lady that that was his Dogger, who had gotten lost and somehow had been put on the stand by mistake, but she wasn't listening. He looked in his pocket. He had 10 cents, but that wasn't enough, so he ran to find Mom and Dad to ask them to buy Dogger back at once. Dave went everywhere in the crowd, but he couldn't see Mom and Dad. He thought he was going to cry. At last he found Bella by the cakes, and when she heard about Dogger, she and Dave ran back to the toy stand as fast as they could. But something terrible had happened. Dogger had been bought by a little girl. She was already walking off with him. Dave began to cry. Bella ran after her and tried to explain that Dogger really belonged to Dave, and could they please buy him back? But the little girl said no. She had bought Dogger with her own money, and she wanted him. She held onto him very tightly. Dave cried and cried. And the little girl started to cry too. But out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of Bella's big yellow teddy, and she stopped crying and put out her hand to stroke his beautiful blue silk bow. It's an interesting picture, isn't it? Then Bella did something very kind. "Would you swap this teddy for my brother's dog?" she asked. Right away the little girl stopped crying and began to smile. She held out Dogger to Dave and took the big teddy instead and went off with him in her arms. Then Dave smiled too. He hugged Dogger tight, and he hugged Bella around the waist. "Thank you, Bella," he said. That night, Dave had Dogger in bed beside him. Do you see Dogger? Bella was practicing somersaults. "Will you miss that big teddy?" Dave asked her. "No," said Bella. "I didn't like him much, really. He was too big, and his eyes were too staring. Anyway, if I had another teddy in my bed, there wouldn't be room for me." The end. Isn't that a good one? Shirley Hughes.